Oh, morning. I was running a little late today. Not too late. I'm still gonna get to work on time probably, but had to hop in the car real quick and almost forgot to start the podcast. Oh, a little rainy. But to work. Oh, well, it's good we're getting all this rain so that we can do fireworks and without a big risk of fire. But hopefully it clears up enough to pop them. Oh, I just am a little unprepared this morning. I was trying to think last night of topics to write down to talk about, but I didn't get around to it, and then started getting ready this morning and was so busy I forgot to think about anything, so we shall see. Let's see, the first letter I see on a license plate, maybe I'll think of something based on that. Or I really do need to get better at the whole topic part of this. Well, I just saw two W's. What's W? West? Sunsets? Oh yeah, continuing from yesterday, or last podcast, I was talking about, dream house. And one thing that my wife and I both want in our dream house is a big wraparound porch. Like, that's something that we both really want, because right now, we don't go outside as much as we probably should, just because we don't have a very nice backyard. Like, it's good enough, but mainly it's just where our dog goes to go to the bathroom, and then out front's just concrete and asphalt. But both really like a nice outdoor space, somewhere we can just kind of sit back and relax outdoors. I feel like part of it too is just living in the city. There's not much to look at. You just see other houses and buildings. And what I like to see outdoors is the horizon, sunset, nature kind of just around. And I think that that's something I definitely would like in a future house, is to look up and see, or look out and see just the horizon. I'd like to look out to the west and just be able to see the sunset, get up in the morning and drink some coffee facing the sunrise. That kind of stuff is more what I want. But I guess that's why they call it a dream house. It's hard to get everything you want in a dream house. Not just because, dream houses are kind of as big as you want it to be, and so it can be expensive, but also just because there are other people with their own houses, so we're not going to get an uninterrupted skyline wherever we end up. But my wife's parents' house, they have some neighbors about a quarter mile away. It's probably their nearest neighbors. Maybe a little less than a quarter mile, but far enough away that it's not blocking much of the way of the view. So you can just kind of see in every direction for a long ways. And I think that's more what I want. It's just kind of a wide view, somewhere you can see the storms rolling in, see the sun rising and setting, just be able to look off into the distance and see everything you want. Which that is definitely possible. I know, because it just requires a few acres between you in every direction. I like the mountains, but I kind of like the flat land around here where you can just see for a long way. I feel like that's kind of what I want, is just being able to look out and see for a while, because the mountains are nice and you get a really good view if you're on the edge without anything obstructing your sight line. You get a great view just out into the distance, but you can't really get that in every direction like you can out here. But it'd be nice to be up in the mountains too. What'd be great is if you're in a flat valley in the middle, and then you have unobstructed views for 10 miles in every direction, and then after that you had mountains in every direction, because then you would get the best of both worlds. Oh, there's a lot of water on the road. I guess it's really coming down for a while here. Yeah. I don't know, it's hard talking about actually moving. It's hard to actually move. When my wife and I were just married, getting out of college, it wasn't too difficult, because we could just kind of pack up everything we had, move, and really just needed enough for a first month's rent, a few necessities. But nowadays we would need a moving truck, we'd need enough to buy a place. There's just a lot more to it these days. And then also, you can't just take any job. I want to take a job that is going to pay enough to provide for the family. So because we've been thinking about moving eventually, not anytime soon really, but just both of us want to get out of the city and find somewhere a bit less populated where we could eventually get a nice house out of town. Man. I don't know if y'all could hear that, but there's just people driving by splashing me, covering me with water. I do enjoy the rain, but driving in the rain is sometimes a little iffy around here because we have a somewhat poor drainage because we don't get very much rain, and so it really floods bad when it floods. But it's manageable. Anyway, I am pulling up to work right now, so that'll be all for this section of the podcast. Hopefully for y'all's sake I have a little more energy and can think of something else to talk about later. But that's all for now. Alrighty. Oh. Definitely a slower morning, but I'm feeling it's gonna be a busy afternoon. Oh. You know, something that out here where I live, we do not have much of is like basements or tornado shelters of any kind. The reason I talk about that is my wife and I are both interested in weather, her more than me, and she's really into storm chasing, following it, and we both kind of are interested in maybe trying that out someday. You know, figuring out something around that, but just something that my wife grew up in Central Texas, and they grew up with a separate tornado shelter at their house, and she lived in 2 houses there, and both had that, and so she was just kind of used to it. And coming to where we live now, she was not used to the idea that wasn't common, and so she's kind of wanted a more secure kind of area for something like that, just to make sure it's safe in case of a tornado, because we've had a couple come nearby. Luckily none have hit the city in recent years. My truck's being weird, doesn't like all the water, but so yeah, that's something that we've thought about as like a kind of dream house idea, is having a kind of basement or tornado shelter of some kind that just kind of keeps it a little more safe in case of extreme weather. But one idea I thought was fun, which is like only if we like won the lottery and had a crazy amount of money so we could do this. Having like an underground kind of just concrete tunnel, more or less, between, because like talked about maybe having like a detached workshop or barn kind of deal, and then also having maybe one or more detached kind of guest houses or houses just for people who are staying with us, whether it be short term or long term. Something kind of like a small apartment so that we could have people come and visit, but if they didn't want to, or they could kind of have privacy in their own deal, like something with a small kitchen and small area, not too much, but like small kitchen, a full bathroom, and a bedroom and a living room. Just like a 600-700 square foot place, something like that. And having like one or two of those, and I was thinking if we had like those we could have them kind of connected via some sort of underground tornado shelter. But that's like a really fun but kind of pie in the sky, very expensive idea, because I know what it costs to get concrete poured, and it would have to be a concrete tunnel, so I know it would cost a lot of money to do something like that. I appreciate people trying to be safe on the roads in the rain, but some people just make it more dangerous without realizing. Like this person in front of me, we're trying to merge onto the highway from an on-ramp, and it's kind of wet, but instead of speeding up to match traffic, they super slowed down to try and just avoid merging into traffic on a wet road. And I get that feels safer, but they caused a huge backup behind them and made us all merge at a much slower speed than we really should have been. That just made it more dangerous. Oh. I hope I don't complain too much about people on the road. I try not to be too harsh about it at the very least, because I know everybody's pretty much doing their best. There are only a few people that are actively driving poorly and not paying attention, especially in weather like this. But it's just kind of annoying when people do things that are not the best when you're driving. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's something, going back to what I was saying, I feel like that's something that a lot of people have kind of thought would be a cool idea, like a secret underground tunnel. And even not secret, but just an underground tunnel is kind of just a cool thing to have. And so it's just like, yeah, it's a fun thought. Oh. But sometimes think about just like, if I did just have enough money to do whatever, what kind of stuff like that would I do? And I think underground tunnels definitely toward the top of the list. Oh, another one in that same kind of vein, talking about weather, is some kind of specialized storm chasing vehicle. I don't know if we would go full tornado intercept vehicle, like full armored car and all that, but I think definitely something with a lot of range and reliability for tracking down storms to get photography of them. I don't think either of us know enough about weather science to do active research, and so we probably wouldn't get close enough to really be in the face of it, just close enough to see it and get videography and photography of it. Which is kind of interesting that it's kind of turned more towards just like online personalities. Because if you don't follow the weather community online, there's a lot of like big kind of weather YouTubers, essentially. Reed Timmer's a big one. He's been doing it since before YouTube even existed and had TV shows about him. Like, he ain't an amateur at all. He's a very professional guy, and they've done tons of research on everything with storms and tornadoes. So he's drives straight into them, but he's in a several thousand-pound armored vehicle that's kind of created to sustain safety and high winds. But there's a lot of other ones. He's the only one that ever tries to really get into a tornado. The rest of them just try and get close enough for photography and videography, like I was saying. But it's always something interesting to think about for me, just because I've seen it online, but I've never actually done it, and I would like to storm chase a little bit to kind of learn more about it as well. It'd be good to... I feel like I'd like to get in, like, learn a little bit about the science behind it and try and get some scientific measurements of it. But I don't really know the best way to do that. It's one of those things where, like, I feel like it'd be fun to do, and I'd like to learn more about it, but I know it's also dangerous, and then it takes a lot of time and effort to really learn how to do the scientific part. So I'd probably end up just doing, we'd probably end up just, taking pictures and videos, trying to stay out of the way of the scientists. But I know that's been a problem before. There are a lot of enthusiasts that are interested in it, but are not particularly safe and kind of get up in the way and get too close and cause an increased risk for everyone involved. And I definitely don't want to ever do that. But it would be cool to see a tornado. Because, like, I've been near them, but we always take shelter. Because that's what you need to do at home. But if you're in a car chasing it, you kind of know where it's going and you avoid it. Not safe, but it's interesting. But that's all the time we got for now. Fireworks are one of the things I've talked about before, where it's like they are very fun, but also very dangerous. And so it's kind of, when you're talking about, around the 4th of July, obviously, which is tomorrow. A lot of people like popping fireworks, and I'm one of them. But there's a lot of people enjoy doing it, but not a lot of people show as much care as they should when using them. Because fireworks are a lot more dangerous than I think a lot of people give them credit for, just because you can buy them here in Texas, at least. You can buy them at just like any store on the side of the highway. It's not hard at all to find somewhere that sells them, and you can just get them easily. But they're powerful enough to blow your hand up. Like, they can cause some real permanent disability damage, and like they can kill you too. Like the force on one of those artillery shells when it launches it into the air, you don't realize how much force that is. But there's a guy, I saw a thing online where a guy took and put the launching tube, so like the mortar tube for the one of the artillery shell fireworks, he put it on his head and said, "Oh, we're gonna launch one from my head," and it instantly killed him, because it's a pretty small projectile, you know, like probably a few, well, it depends on the size. Like the big ones are like probably 100 grams, 200 grams. Like, it's not a lot, but they're being fired like dozens or like 100 feet in the air at crazy high speeds off of a single explosive propulsion. And so like in the video, the guy kind of broke down the math for it when he was talking about it, but it's like, it's something crazy in terms of force, but it's like the equivalent of a 200-pound man just dropping from like a foot above your head. Like, it's enough to instantly break your neck. And that's what happened to the guy, is it broke his neck and shattered his skull and killed him, because he thought that his head was as hard as the ground. And that's just one of those things, because fireworks are so ubiquitous, a lot of people do not think about just how much power and energy is contained in a firework. Because it is a lot, and like, they just explode and look pretty, so you're like, oh, they aren't that bad, but the force required to launch them, plus they need to spread out the dust, plus in order for them to create that light, they have to be burning at a very high temperature. And like, even like sparklers use magnesium to ignite, which is very difficult to put out in like lights even underwater. Like, you can't, most sparklers, you cannot put them out using water. And so it's just like, people just do not really consider how dangerous they are a lot of times, and it leads to a lot of mistakes and injuries that are very preventable if more people just kind of took the time to understand what they were dealing with. And I think that's one of those things that kind of makes me hesitant, because I'm always, like, with driving as well, you know, driving is so much more dangerous than a lot of people realize. And when you are like texting or looking down at your phone, you just, like, you can cover hundreds of feet just in the time it takes you to look down and check your messages. Not even fully read one or text and send one. Just looking down at your phone you can cover an entire football field's distance before you can look back up. And like when you're driving, I've been driving on the highway and had a deer jump out in front of my car. And the only reason I didn't hit the deer is because I saw it from like a quarter mile back. I could kind of see something moving on the side of the road, so I kind of had my foot hovering over the brake. And then as we got within a couple hundred feet, I saw it was a deer kind of looking towards the road. So I already started slowing down a couple of miles per hour, and then the deer ran out and I slammed on the brakes and still barely managed to avoid hitting it. And that was like paying attention and getting ready for several seconds. And if I had looked down and not paid attention at any point during that, it would have been too late and I would have completely wrecked the car. And if I had swerved to avoid the deer instead of braking, probably would have thrown my car off the road and even flipped it. And all that can come from just not paying enough attention for just half a second or 2 seconds. And like it happens with people too, because people walk on the side of the road, and if somebody trips, they aren't planning on it. They're not gonna make it obvious ahead of time if they trip and fall. That's just gonna happen, and you have to react very quickly to avoid hitting them. There's a lot of people who don't really pay much attention when they merge, and they'll cut you off, and even though it's their fault, you gotta be paying attention so you don't hit them, because just because it's somebody else's fault doesn't mean you won't get hurt. And I've heard a lot of people say like, oh, I've been in like 20 car crashes, but none of them were my fault. And I'm like, even if it's not your fault, you can prevent it. Like, somebody else's bad driving doesn't mean that you're always going to be in a crash if they drive bad, because there are a lot of ways that you can get into a car crash and you could not have prevented it. I do not think that car crashes are always the fault of the people driving each car, but there are a lot of times where I have almost been in a car crash, but I avoided it because I was paying attention. And even though the other person did something that was illegal, dangerous, and probably would have caused a crash if I wasn't paying attention to them, I managed to brake and swerve or just stop in time to avoid a crash. There was one time I was driving downtown and I was sitting at a red light and there was just nobody coming in either direction, and so I was just sitting there, and then the light turned green. I took my foot off the brakes, I started going, but I went ahead and checked both directions anyway, and a guy just peeled out from nowhere and sped right across. Like, I slammed on the brakes and he only missed my car by like a couple of feet, but he just swerved right through the middle of the intersection, straight through a red light, and absolutely none of that would have been my fault if I had just gone through, because it was a green light and there had been nobody coming last time I checked, and so I could have just went on through, and what would have happened is I would have got T-boned. Which it wouldn't have been my fault at all, but I just am always watching when I drive because of that, and other experiences like that where you just see somebody do something irresponsible that really you don't even have to watch out for because it should never have happened. But if you keep an eye on everybody, even when you're doing the right driving, then it'll help avoid crashes. I know I've talked about this a lot, but I really feel like I've just known so many people that get in car crashes like at least once a year. And I always just wonder, are you paying very close attention? Like, maybe you're just unlucky, but a lot of times they'll just be saying they were, just driving and like driving down a road and somebody pulls out in front of them from nowhere, and I'm like, that is not your fault, but I definitely think next time you're driving down that road, maybe pay a little attention to the sides, make sure nobody's about to turn out, and move over if somebody's merging into your lane instead of just speeding up. Because I know one guy who I remember, he said he was driving in a lane and then saw somebody coming, so he sped up to try and make sure he got ahead of them, and then they sped up too and crashed into him on the side and sideswiped him as they were trying to merge. And then like, he was not at fault because he's going the speed limit. He didn't speed to do it. He just was driving in his lane, and the other person decided that they wanted to get in that lane whether he was going to move or not. But I really do kind of blame him for that crash a little bit too, because if you just move over, you're not going to get in a crash, and it might be their job to pay attention in that circumstance, but that doesn't mean you can't help. Anyway, sorry about all the ranting and complaining. But that's all the time I have for now. So. Alrighty, welcome back for the final of the day. Oh, that was a lot to... I just got done wiring up the internet that I've been talking about, and I got everything labeled wired, but we had the people who own the building install some cubicles for us, and they did not label the wires in the cubicles correctly. So it is all kinds of a mess. And it's going to have to be rerouted somewhat. But I think it will be doable. It's just going to take a lot of mapping. And I mean, it's only 20, so that's not bad. Because if it was... if it was, like half of them, well, actually that is about half of them, but if it was like, 30 or 40 out of the 48, then it would have been a lot. Yeah, we got it mostly hooked up. I just need to test it all now. Oh. But I didn't realize the 48 port switch we got is missing an input. So there's only one input on it, or there's only 48 ports, and all of them I think we need all of them, and we're gonna have 47 since one needs to be used for the input. But I guess we'll see. Oh, I'm a little tired after all that going around. Plus, it was a very hot in the office for a bit. So, I'm a little tired. Sorry if I don't talk quite as much. But that's good. Oh, it is the weekend now, I guess. Tomorrow's the 4th, and so we're leaving town and going to go and have some fun. Oh. But that'll be what I'm doing tomorrow. We'll see if I try and record in the car, and if I record, we'll see if it's any good. But it'll all just depend on how it goes. Yeah, I'm just trying to focus on talking a little bit, but I'm tired, so having to focus too much on driving to do both for much of it. But I guess there's some things I can kind of talk about without paying much attention and just kind of blabbering on and going on and on and on about talking. I guess I've gotten pretty good at doing a little bit of that here and there now, and so I'm just going to try and talk about talking for a minute, because I have gotten better at just running my mouth and not really saying much of anything at all, just kind of continuing to talk and talk and talk and not really stop and think or continue to change subject or provide any useful thought in the conversation other than adding words to the air to keep there from being dead air, which is an interesting phrase because, dead air is kind of like silence, which implies that the silence is the death of the sound, which is an interesting thought, seeing as sound is not alive or dead, but being the presence of moving particles in the air, which is really quite interesting when you think about it, how particles kind of bounce around, and that's what creates the sound that you hear, and the particles from the air being pushed through my vocal cords as they vibrate at specific frequencies by stretching and relaxing the muscles in my throat are being vibrated at such a specific frequency that you can tell the difference between them. And then my tongue is starting and stopping the staccato nature of the pronunciation, creating all those different kind of sounds with the shapes and the E's and the A's, and all of that's combining into vibrations in the air, which are then bouncing off the inside of the car all around me and vibrating through my head to get to the headphone that's around my ear. And those are going into the microphone, which is then vibrating at the same frequencies and translating those vibrations into electricity that is then being translated again from electricity into a I don't know if Bluetooth is microwave or macrowave, but anyway, it's being transmitted into an electronic wave, which is like sound, only light instead of sound, because light's photons, and that's what electromagnetic waves are. And so then it's being translated into electromagnetic waves and transmitted via the air to my phone, which is then turning those electromagnetic waves into electrical pulses again, which is then being stored as ones and zeros in a storage interface inside of that phone. where I will then be transmitting that back into electronic pulses, back into I almost stopped there. Back into the pulses of electromagnetic radiation that is transferred via the air and my Wi-Fi to my Wi-Fi box, the router, which is then converts it back into electrical pulses, which are then sent into a cable that then somewhere down the line converts them into pulses of light onto when they get turned onto a what's that called? The fiber optic cable is transmitted into pulses of actual light at some point, which are then transmitted over crazy distances and then hit a server where it's turned back into electrical signals, back into electronically stored data, or even magnetically stored in some cases. But then that is going to be turned back into that data, repeat that whole process in reverse to go to my computer, and then that's where it'll be combined with a video file that's just a still image and formatted into an MP4, and then once again uploaded by that whole process again and put onto YouTube, where it's then stored in another storage site after being transmitted thousands of miles via light, and then it'll be once again done that process in reverse so that it can hit your device and be bounced into your ears from wherever the speaker is on your phone or TV or laptop. It's just, that is a lot to think about, all the stuff that little sound wave gets translated through and still keeps almost all of the information that I put into it originally. There may be a very slight bit of intonation lost, but 99.9% of what I'm saying verbally and transmitting over the air as vibration is being converted 20 to 30 different times, sent over thousands of miles of cabling and air and as light electrical pulses and just simple vibrations, all so that you can hear this podcast. And I just successfully talked for 10 minutes without even paying attention to what I was saying, really. So that's all the time I have for today. I might do that again as another podcast, because that was kind of fun, actually. I might have to see if I could do that again. I used to be really good at that, just kind of talking about what I was talking about and doing it over and over and over and over again until it was a completely different subject and just wasted 10 minutes. But yeah, that's all the time I have for today. See y'all next time.